What's up, JEFusion fans? This is Philip and welcome back to another video. Now, to be completely honest, this one is coming out way before the actual finale of Kamen Rider Revice, but you know what? Who cares? I just want to do this for fun, and I am going to give my honest, hopefully spoiler-free review of the entire show. And, well, that said, I'm gonna try to talk about what I like and not like about the show and how it holds up to at least the other entries in the Reiwa era Kamen Riders. So, of course, with the exception of Geats, because, well, it's not out yet, obviously. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So, anyways, let's do it. Now, what are the things that I don't like about Revice? So, I'm gonna start off with that, just to get it out of the way. So, I don't like how underutilized Vice's, you know, Terra genome was. Yes, we do have this strange law that kind of prohibits, they or kind of limits rather, not really prohibit, because of course if it was prohibited, you wouldn't get that anyway. We wouldn't get to see the first basically hovercraft rider machine, in the show, in the entire franchise rather. So basically there's this law in Japan that limits the use of customized or modified motorcycles. I understand for safety reasons, but Toei spent so much money on that, obviously, and you're not gonna use it? Like, come on. It's a huge waste of time and money, and really, a waste of a very interesting and honestly very cool concept as well. For the first time in the entire franchise, we actually see a Kamen Rider being able to fly, at least using a rider machine that's actually real and it exists. You can just imagine how far we've come with the technology, and it all went to dust because of a stupid law. Again, I understand safety reasons and whatnot, but yeah, it was, for me, a waste of opportunity in general. So, I also kind of not like how underutilized the other genome forms are, especially when power ups started coming out. When uh, Revi got the Barid Rex, he started using only that. And when he got the Volcanic Rex, he started using only that. Well, Jack Revice wasn't around for very long either, and it was replaced by Revice, just Kamen Rider Revice, yeah, with the Thunder Gale genome, and it became quite the standardized form, or it became the main form until now. You have the ultimate form. So, well, of course, I understand enemies were getting stronger, and you know, uh, Iki and Vice needed a way to uh, catch up with the enemies, or else they'd be completely destroyed. So again, I understand that, but for weaker enemies, you could have just used any other genome, I guess. But even with the more powerful forms, they didn't really finish off all the enemies like easily. Probably with the Gift Juniors, let's say using the ultimate genome like Revi and Vice, just use their magnetic powers to squish them all. So the fight was easy. All right, I get that, but there were times that I wish that more you used, or they used rather, the other genome forms a lot more often. Again, there was money involved, in the creation of those suits, and not utilizing them enough would, you know, again, in my opinion, be a waste of money. And with the characters, I don't really have a lot of complaints. Yeah, each and every character had their good and bad moments, but I would say like well, not really the worst, but rather the most rushed character arcs. Let's say for example the Juga arc. I understand that Toei wanted to turn George into a Kamen Rider, and I think it's Noritaka Hamao's uh, wildest dream come true to become a Kamen Rider himself. Uh, Even though, yeah, he's already transformed into demons once, but to become his own rider, I guess Toei wanted that to happen anyway. Uh, it was okay, but uh, it could have been either longer or at least had a better closure rather than the daddy issues things. So, well, I guess it was a driving factor that I understand, but it's something that could have been handled better. The next thing is like Hikaru Ushijima. So he's a character that was not really that much invested in, and then you suddenly turn him into a Kamen Rider just to turn him into a Kamen Rider, for turning him into a Kamen Rider for kicks, but at least in his he had his shining moments, really, especially later on. So when he utilized the demon's driver to its full potential against the Akaishi, and well, he wasn't really able to destroy him, obviously, but yeah, it was a nice shining moment for him, but you know, at least we could have cared more about him, especially with his family and whatnot. But again, not entirely bad, but could have been handled better. Now Tamaki was done dirty, I think. Now, uh, I think one of his best moments was when he was almost, distraught. He was still basically a dead man's that time in when he turned into the wolf dead man's riot. That was actually one of his best moments in my opinion. Like, he was kick-ass. No, he really showed the power of a dead man's when taken to a higher level. And well, sure, it had to be taken away at some point, but uh, you know he could have become a Kamen Rider using a Wolf Vice stamp, just like what happened to Aguilera, and he could have been Kamen Rider Julio, but well, I guess there wasn't a lot of time, and we focused on the more major characters. I understand that, so he was just made the next user of the Demon's Driver as Kamen Rider over Demons. And what's sad about that is he only transformed twice in the show, right? His first transformation was okay, but unlike the previous user who was Hikaru, you know, Tamaki wasn't really able to utilize the Demon's Driver that much. So come, the following week, he was basically wiped out by Kamen Rider Juga, and he's no longer able to transform into Kamen Rider Demons again because, well, Juga destroyed the belts, which is, sad. But I think he probably did more in the movie. I hope, because honestly, I haven't seen it yet. So, I don't know if Tamaki actually was able to utilize more of the Demon's Driver in the movie, because I think he did transform into Kamen Rider over Demons. So, yeah. well, that's life. But overall, the characters, whether they had basically all their good and bad moments, but it in general it was okay. Now, I would say that like my favorite story arc, you know, uh, what would it be if I were to choose? Like actually, it would be the earlier parts, you know, like compared to Kamen Rider Saber, like those early 13 episodes or so were kind of slow, I think, in terms of story development, but it was opposite, right? Like, I think Revice had a better start, but then it slowed down. Whereas Saber what started kind of slow in my opinion, but when it started picking up pace, it really went all the way. So, uh, yeah, at least that's how I think of uh, Saber compared to Revice, or Revice compared to Saber. So uh, what I like about the show, well, that idea of uh, the family aspect is quite interesting. Having even on the enemy's side, so they also had their own concept of family. And, like, family really was an important part of Kamen Rider Revice, and I think anything that about being able to, or like you like how do you say this, like you should put importance on your family, like protecting your family, loving your family, you know, maybe even at if you have to protect your family and you have to pay a price for it, there's love, familial love, basically, is the main theme of the show, and yeah, that's uh, basically it. Now, as for the side stories, like they're all interesting and they really give depth to characters that probably wouldn't have a lot of time to be fleshed out in the show. Uh, let's say Kamen Rider Veil, for example, right? So uh, it explains the origins of Genta Igarashi, and how his family would eventually be able to turn into Kamen Riders. Well, with the exception of his wife, but uh, yeah, it gives us a look into what happened before the show and how it would affect the show much later on. So, Kamen Rider Veil, I would say it's actually quite. I would say it is a necessary watch to again get more context, but it is a worthy. It is worth it to try it out, or at least to look at it. Now, Kamen Rider Aguilera, I would say it is entertaining nonetheless. Maybe because of the fan service, you know, with other female writers from past series returning. Well, Akiko is not a writer herself unless you count that one time in her dream that she was actually Kamen Rider Double. But again, well, you know, technically speaking, she isn't. She never was. But again, seeing, you know, actresses from uh, previous series come back and, of course, transform into Kamen Riders, definitely a delight. But plot wise, I don't think there's much importance, It does give more detail into Aguilera's story, which, Aguilera is honestly one of my favorite characters in the show, but uh, plot wise, I don't think it's necessary. It is entertaining though, so I'd still recommend watching it. Now, the Revice, crime mystery thing is probably the least I'd recommend. It still has its entertaining aspects, I believe, but again, in terms of plot, it has zero relation to the main story. Again, maybe a bit of fan service with actors from, especially like Kamen Rider Axel. He returned for this spin-off, but again, it's also an unnecessary watch if you're really into the plot of Revice. But for what it's worth, again, it is entertaining. So there's still probably still there's probably still something that you could get out of it. But yeah, that's all I got. Now, uh, honestly, in general, Kamen Rider Revice is an okay show. So, how does it compare to Zero One and Saber? Now, I would say that in terms of overall story, like, I still prefer Kamen Rider Saber. It's still the best show that I've seen in recent years. And at least ranking it amongst the Deiwa era Kamen Rider shows, I really still think Saber is the best. You cannot change my mind with that. Now, I am honestly struggling whether to put Revice higher than Zero One, but if I were maybe just slightly. Now, I understand there were some things, especially in the real world, that affected the popularity of Kamen Rider Zero One. Well, it affected the story and the production of Kamen Rider Zero One. I understand there was a noticeable drop in quality midway, but uh, now that uh, you know uh, restrictions are very much eased, although there are still safety protocols observed, so at least uh, actors are protected and things like that. But so now you still are able to produce, right? You're still able to create the show, and yeah, you know, I would still say that at least without those pandemic restrictions, Revice is, I would say, just slightly better than Zero One. Like, this is Zero One, this would be Revice, but Saber would be here. Yeah, it's off screen. And that's how I would rank them. Again, uh, Reiwa era Kamen Riders in general, like, sure, they're not Heisei. They have their own, ideas that make them unique, that make them different, that make them stand out compared to, the past generations. But uh, yeah, I would say Kamen Rider Revice, it's fine. For a series that is sold as the 50th anniversary Kamen Rider. mm, well, Revice does maybe in a way go back to the Kamen Rider roots, uh, because if you compare uh, the original Kamen Rider and Revice, right? So they both have been given powers that were originally intended for evil, I guess. Well, Takeshi Hongo was originally designed to be a shocker soldier, but uh, and we know Shocker wants to rule the world, so he was basically created as a weapon for evil, but he was able to escape brainwashing and used his powers to fight for justice instead. And in a way, Revice is kind of like that. So, Revi used the power of his demon Vice, which originally was evil, right? But he was able to use Vice's powers to fight for good, and eventually Vice became good as well. So, uh, you know, again, we have that aspect, and with the Kamen Rider Beyond Generations team up, it was actually really entertaining. So kind of like it's an okay homage to writers of previous generations and whatnot. So you know, it's good in its own way. So, if I were to give Kamen Rider Revise a rating of 1 to 5, if I were to give it like you know 5 in on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, I would give Kamen Rider Revise a rating of 3.5 out of 5. It is slightly better than 01, but definitely not as good as Saber, especially when it comes to how the endings were handled. But you know, things happen, right? So, with that said, this has been my review of the entire Kamen Rider Revice series. So, I probably have missed some details, but I think I've talked a lot already, and this video has gone on for 20 minutes already. So, sorry about this long talk. But I really wanted to be completely honest here, so yeah, I really I don't sound that happy or enthusiastic because in the end, well, it again, Revice was okay, but it didn't give me somewhat of a satisfaction. I know I'm speaking too soon because this is gonna be posted way before the ending, so yeah. But if you love Kamen Rider Revice, you do you really. I'm not gonna judge anyone who loves Kamen Rider Revice. But again, I really had, actually, like I had memories of Revice because because of that I was able to create content that is basically, you know, I was able to create Kamen Rider content that I was kind of, at least in a way, I was able to take you guys along with me, with my trips to Nagoya, with the pop-up store and the exhibit, because these things happened during the time of Revice, so I guess there's that kind of sentiment, but like, looking just at the show, again, it was okay. So, anyways, thank you so much for watching. Please do leave a like. Comment below what you think of Kamen Rider Revice. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? Or what did you hate about it? So, leave it all in the comments below. And also, share this video with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get the latest from JEFusion. This has been Philip, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.